Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get into the final group to be cast from the March Invitational 2025. And I know we're like halfway through April right now, but I hope you enjoy this cast nonetheless. We've got, in this video, right here and now, Kasuga versus SosijLord as the opening matchup. Now, you guys just saw the color guesses, I'm assuming, because Inozlix was the admin for this group, and it's his POV that we are currently spectating because the first replay of the group did not end up working out. Have no fear. There is going to be plenty more replays to cast after this. Of course, it's a whole group and all the other replays worked out just fine. So, just wanted to clear that up. I did not pay attention to the color guesses. Kasuga kind of looks pumpkin-y to me, but I guess I'll just guess... maybe it is pumpkin, actually. It's either that or electric orange. I'm not sure which, but I'll say pumpkin for the sake of it. And SosijLord, he kind of looks like, not dim gray, but just silver, I guess. I'll say SosijLord was silver. That's my guess there. You guys can rewind the video if you missed the color guesses, because Inozlix did them pretty early here. And so, yeah, we'll see how that one goes out. Maybe somebody will let me know what my color guess accuracy was in this game. Now, Kasuga and SosijLord are both fairly new players. This is their first bout of competitive Cosmonarchy as far as a tournament play is concerned. And we already see Kasuga doing a very interesting build. He's gone double lattice with an embassy follow-up. SosijLord will see that. For our tournament here, Apollo by Biddyby was our starter map. It's a map that does have a pretty long rush distance, and so I thought maybe based on that and the fact that, of course, it's a two-spawn map, two-spawn kind of situation, easy to solve, easy to kind of figure out, and probably defender-sided a little bit more than some of the other maps in the pool, and so I thought that would be a nifty little starter here for us. Usually it also can lead to large-scale conflicts as well. As we see, mostly looking at the mini-map here, we obviously have that first vassal having departed for the bottom left. I presume it will end up moving directly towards SosijLord's base. Since this tournament was played, since this is like the 31st of March, I believe, that this was played, since it was taking place over the last 2 days of the month, we have seen Kasuga and SosijLord play a ton of games, do a ton of things. SosijLord hails from Peru, I believe, alongside a few other South Americans that we've recently added to our list, right? Neuchern, P-Sense, SG, ZZZ, and, obviously Pingo Collator was around for, or Pingalo Collator, excuse me, that's how you say that guy's name, was around for a hot minute as XD man, so everybody knows that. So yeah, we've just been seeing that South American representation coming in hot. Kasuga hails from Taiwan, I believe, which is very cool. And, I'll hold that thought, because we do have that manifold being run down. SosijLord can try to connect some more shots onto it. But, at this point, there are idols in production. That manifold will end up going down. All Kasuga really needs to do here is just pull his workers and kind of, like, peel off and kind of drill onto the Zeths. And that's exactly what you see him doing here. A little bit sloppy. Might end up losing a Scribe. Yeah, he is going to lose at least 2 here. And finally, those Zeths will be run off. The idols spawn in, and he's going to need to reset his worker count. Now, that being said, 7 vassals now flying on in here. We got 4 quads rather. They're going to pick one of them. So we're only down to 6 vassals. I think the Scribe is still in the base as well. Might end up factoring in a little bit here. I see something on the minimap anyway. Maybe that's just a witness or something. Nonetheless, no real damage found. Remember, Kasuga did end up dropping 2 workers in that raid, and yeah, he's only going to kill a single Quaz for his name. Not looking too hot here. Kasuga definitely struggling to find a counterpunch to what we saw previously. Yeah, and it is indeed a witness inside the main base of SosijLord, so he's traded a little bit of military tempo for a little bit of extra intel, and that can be a game-winning thing to have, but now we see SosijLord taking his expo, Kasuga floating a decent amount of cash. He'll splash down a grand library and maybe a pylon as well, just to get his bearings in his base, and he is going to go ahead and expand to his natural later than he would have liked, but still, it's a possibility, and we've got plenty of idols here to defend the main choke. There's really no opportunity for SosijLord to bust in with pure Quaz now that these golems have hit the mainland. Really unlikely to be able to break through that, and as soon as he sees them, in fact, he's like, yeah, my Quaz have 1 armor pen, and they shoot twice. It's 2 times 3. And so after 1 armor, every shot gets reduced by 2. So yeah, it's definitely a lot to break through these golems, plus the fact that the golems restore their own shields anyway. If you hit 1 golem, it'll restore the golem next to its shields, or any other Protoss units next to its shields. So yeah, it's definitely a tough one there. And pay no heed to the fact that the town center marker looks off center there for the natural. Kasuga has planted it correctly. The terrain is just a little bit off there, that's all. So Kassuga's going to go ahead and drop his Sedent to cap his gas, and he does have Amaranths coming out of that Grand Library. The significance here is that it looks like Kasuga is trying to go for a composition that is really, really well suited to sustaining on the front line to get through any like heavy hitters that SosijLord maintains, but his idols will continue to provide a healthy amount of... I want to say that generally speaking, they're going to handle the splash. They'll also handle an air transition unless it's Gorger cores. Even then, with enough idols, you can break that, but much harder to. They have a very high health pool. Okay, and so with Kasuga, you know, kind of solidifying, it looks like we are going to get deeper into this matchup. Not over yet, not completely concluded. The Vassal patrolling to see if it spots any drops. Ooh, the Ovaleth actually spots out the Witness. Now, if SosijLord is savvy, he's going to try to break that Witness before he leaves. That being said, obviously Kasuga is now aware, okay, a drop is going to be coming to me. He doesn't necessarily know exactly what was in it, but he does know that there was one there. So the Witness is going to sort of set up shop behind the mineral line in the main base. The Bulwark has been deployed. So the Bulwark for the Protoss is the modified shield battery looking graphic, and it restores shields in an aura every 2 seconds, I think it is. So it's pretty consistent there, and it provides detection. So there's no, not nearly as much of a risk of, say, you know, getting dove in on by Lakizilisks, the lurker equivalent for Zerg in Cosmonarchy. That's not something that SosijLord even has the tech for right now, is he's just making spraiths, just solidifying his approach. He's going to try a drop. I'm not a fan of the strategy when you're dropping your opponent without actually attacking at the same time. So this feels more like a prod of information, yet it has the drop, so it had potential to do economic damage, and then maybe SosijLord would have been able to get into the game a little bit more with the worker count, right? He's going to drop some very, very good anti-worker units, but he only picks one Scribe. I think part of that is due to the Bulwark restoring some of the shields, but mostly I think it's just a bit of a lack of focus fire. And with this Matrix operational, basically every time the Matrix attacks, it restores shields around its target and around itself. And so the Scribes are a lot hardier now, especially with the idols kind of sitting over there. There's a Cantavis in play as well in case Storm was needed. Didn't end up being needed there. No worries there. And yeah, I mean, Kassuga holds that beautifully. Now it feels like, you know, the macro level of Kassuga seems to be showing itself as perhaps a little bit more respectable because SosijLord, low on workers, and no third base in sight. He's had map control. He's had tempo this whole stage of the game. I guarantee you, by the way, if you look at these players now that it's been half a month and they've been playing steadily, you will 100% see better play out of them. And we did see Kasuga in a free-for-all that was played after the Invitational, and he played Terran. So this is our first time seeing his Protoss, but he's been grinding. He's been playing FFAs, he's been playing a lot of 1v1s. So he's definitely a man who's enjoying the game, that's for sure. A gamer, a true gamer. So the Unitary Union is on the way. This is a tier 3 robotic structure for the Protoss. Kasuga probably going to be going for Vibrances. They'd be a great choice here. But effectively, the units that you get out of the Unitary Union fall into two categories. They're either crowd-controlling units that have a decent amount of stability, of durability, of combat staying power, or they are more artillery-focused. The Architect was moved there some time ago now, a few months ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, for example, and that's a unit that has a little bit of crowd control with its missile splits, but mostly is there to range down armies behind the back line and try to move around and shark a little bit, looking for some value. So it looks like we'll see exactly which unit is going to come out of there for Kasuga, and it will be a Vibrance. So to explain what the Vibrance does, it's a permanently cloaked unit that reveals itself when it attacks, as all Protoss cloaked combatants do. You think the Kabbalist, Dark Templar equivalent, same kind of shtick there, where it reveals itself when it attacks, which allows us to do more power budget with the rest of the unit. Now, the Vibrance not only reveals itself when it attacks and is permanently cloaked otherwise, but it attacks in an AoE, and every unit that is struck by it will bleed shields in the same way that I just described the Matrix bleeding those shields when it attacks. So not around itself, but around its targets. And so if you're hitting 10 units and each one of those bleeds 2 shields, I mean, that's a good amount of healing right there, just as an example. So it's a pulse attack, and we are going to be able to see it in action. We have an engagement in the middle of the map, and Nozlix will look over there eventually, I'm sure. It's a little bit of a, looks like it's been stymied and parried a little bit, as obviously there's reinforcements coming in from SosijLord. And Nozlix, please look at the middle of the map. Thank you. We have a Psystorm coming out. And yeah, I mean, the Obelisk has already been chewed through, so a Vibrance is going to sneak up on this army undetected. It's not really great at doing damage itself, but it's so hard to bring down, and it can restore shields to allies, obviously. If an ally is near the victims of the Vibrance, you're going to get those shields back on that ally as well. So a very, very powerful supportive unit that by itself isn't really... In order to actually kill things with Vibrances, you need to have a ridiculous amount of power. So as we see SosijLord kind of massing up his army, we have... the Bactalisk's coming, the Lake is coming. It obviously is a case where there's a pretty powerful tech disparity between our army here. And yeah, there's a hash here, but it looks like it was just the Witness here, or one of the other players probably, since the Witness is ID 2. So it's probably like the Haunt is also in this group, and so he might have been the one who dropped there. So yeah, interesting stuff, because SosijLord is obviously... He's trying his best to do some map control here, but he's tier 1 tech, right? Some of it is powerful tier 1 tech, like the Bactalisks, the Zoryus, the Lake is, the Lurker equivalent, right? But we see tier 3 units being deployed alongside the tier 1 that Kassuga has. He's got a really strong chaff, and he has his Clarion out as well to just keep the shields up forever. The Clarion allows shields damage to be split and spread amongst all targets that have that spinner on them, so keep that in mind. Some of them are straying a little bit further away, and we have Hydralisks on the field to burst through the golems. That's going to work out really well for SosijLord, and with no front line, the Storm needs to be money. It's great work from Kasuga to get that Storm up, and SosijLord, he has the Bactalisks to just kill that very, very important Cantavis, the Stormer boy. It was not going to be enough before he lost so many Hydras, and now it feels like he might not be able to break through the reinforcements. We got Amaranths with their Shield Steel. Those are the guys with the glaives there that walk forward and strike with their one arm, yeah. And so the Golem's obviously providing a little bit of shield sustain. The Clarion sustaining everything. We now have 3 Vibrances. It looks like they will end up being overwhelmed at some point. The Clarion also acts as a detector, so it's a very high-value target for SosijLord's army to break through, and he's not focusing it down just yet. It looks like it will fly away and escape. As of right now, though, SosijLord, I mean, he hasn't really leveraged his position into anything better. There's something in the bottom left, but it's not harvesting from the neutral bases, right? So instead what we end up seeing is a pretty heavy amount of, like, there's no third base, there's no scaling in the eco. If SosijLord doesn't just pile drive through Kasuga's army here, we could end up seeing a real awkward position, because the third base is up for our Protoss. You very rarely see the Protoss out-expanding their opposition, and right now, only now is he first targeting those Clarions down. There goes both of them. That will allow him to actually try to break through this, but he has no anti-armor here. He needs Hydralisks or something with this army, maybe a bunch of Lakes. Instead, he's got the evolution of the Hydralisk, the Bactalisk, and that's really, really well suited to deal with, you know, lightly armored targets, a lot of targets that they can bounce their attacks onto. But Golems, Vibrances, even Amaranths are so difficult to break through on the armor front, so that is not going to end very well. Kasuga has a bit of a float right now. His Unitary Union number 2 is coming up online in the main base, and of course we have got more stuff coming in there. Looks like we might have a brief pause here. And we are back. It looks like it was just an Ozlex making sure that the money was in order. And indeed, you can see here that SosijLord has spent his cash. Kasuga, not so much. But the army is still looking pretty sharp here for Kasuga. He's got an Acantor. That's the Reaver equivalent. He's actually got 2 of them. Across a bridge, I mean, good luck trying to break that. He's starting to filter in Asilience, that stalker-looking graphic that just rolled down the street. The Asilient is the other crowd control option in accordance with the Vibrance from the Unitary Union. It will basically create like a projectile that has a delay on it that attaches to a target and then sort of bolts from it and fires on a nearby target. So it's like the longer this battle goes on, that projectile just keeps hitting everything, and you're going to end up in a very sorry state if you try to take a very long sustained fight with Kasuga's army. And that's exactly what he's itemizing for. If you look at his army the same way that you would look at like a build in a RPG or something, his selection of choice here is that I want to take a fight that lasts for eternity, because the longer it takes for you to bring me down, the more I'm killing your units and the less you're killing mine, because I've got sustain. I've got sustained damage now as well with the Asilians coming in. And of course, I just have those Clarions to make my units immortal, basically. So very, very strong stuff here. Now, we do have Tier 2 achieved for SosijLord. He has been able to get his Mutat Spire, his Matraval Nest. Everything seems in order on that front. He's also setting up his third base, but look at the worker difference here. Kasuga, almost double the worker count of his opponent, taking a 4th base, adding gateways to maybe frustrate the path in to 12 o'clock. And on top of it all, we've got a very small Zerg army that is being entirely read positionally by those witnesses out in the middle of the map. Now, they are going to dive in before these structures finish warping in. There's 6 Wardens and 2 Matrixes definitely sat here for Kasuga, trying to see if he can defend and hold out this position. This army is not that big, but it's also, you know, a non-trivial portion of SosijLord's army. And you're seeing that army count fall and dwindle right before our very eyes. Because, of course, he is going to come in as an uppercut to kind of power through and punch through very slowly. War of attrition. Kasuga's shield sustain composition certainly paying out dividends. The one Asiliant doesn't have a crazy number of kills right now. Probably hasn't gotten a crazy amount of damage either, but definitely a solid pick for this army, especially if more of them come on in. On a long enough time scale, you only need one Asiliant to continuously splash down every single unit in the game. So it's not entirely unfeasible. It's just, it's kind of funny to see that. It's like in the same way that the Mutalisk bounces its attack, right? It would be like, oh, I have one Muta, so that's enough, right? And well, you could use a little bit more. You could use a little bit more. SosijLord is slowly scaling up his tech level. He seems to have, you know, the Protoss knocking on his door at this point. He's trying to take 6 o'clock, but he's only just now saturated his 3rd base, if it's even saturated. I mean, with this worker count, I don't believe it is. Only silver lining, and I don't really count this as a silver lining, is that, yeah, it's barely, barely got any workers there. He's mining the gas, but he's not mining the minerals. At least his main base isn't necessarily depleted, because he's definitely had a lot of time to mine from there, but he's been so undersaturated for so long. Now the Convolisks, those Scorpion-looking graphics, are constantly spewing out a ridiculous amount of Rillarrow cores to kind of slow this army down, basically spawning Broodlings on the enemy. And when the Broodlings die, they ensnare things. So this is definitely grinding this fight to a halt. The problem is, there's no damage here for SosijLord. That Circuit Season needs to do a ton of heavy lifting. It is going to be brought down. The Convolisks are getting engaged upon. He was making a Khaz'trith, which is going to empower more projectiles to be launched by projectile units, but it's not actually going to be enough because there's no units left. He didn't make any units. He has been essentially out of this fight. He has been routed and destroyed. His gas income definitely not high enough to keep tabs with the rest of his army. You know, if you see this this disparity in money right now, you're like, oh my god, 4K minerals and only 1,000 Vespene. He definitely needed to spend a little bit more. Right now, it looks like he's just watching along. You will probably notice that the Vibrances, they attack from a distance, but you get more value out of them if you move them closer to the target, because it's like creating a splash projectile on yourself, and it splashes targets from all of that. So GG is going to be called. SosijLord will have to concede, and that is a wrap on our first game. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our challenger approaching Kasuga. Haunt is our Ultramarine Protoss in the bottom left, and Kasuga is our green Protoss in the top right. So perfect color guess accuracy so far. I probably didn't get it right in YouTube video compression will change the color slightly, and so when I'm casting from that, I'm like, is it this? And it's never that. That being said, Haunt is down here in the bottom left. He's actually playing as random in this tournament. I left him at Zerg in the first one because I didn't remember what his first appearance was. Eventually, I'll put the random icon in there for the sake of everybody knowing in the scoreboard. But I'll still change the overlay to indicate, oh yeah, it's PvP, right? They are both going Gateway. I have never seen Haunt play. Even to this day, I have never seen Haunt play. I think he has still continued to participate. He's hailing from Colombia, and alongside Neutron there, I believe. So pretty cool stuff there. I actually think P-Sense was also studying in Colombia or something like that. There's a lot of people who are hanging out in South America that are playing Cosmonarchy, so I do appreciate it. My muchachos, my hermanos, hermanos. So Haunt is going to follow up his Gateway Legionnaire opening with a Lattice, and he's also added another Pylon, which is very, very not in vogue for the Protoss these days. We've got 2 Gate from Kasuga. We'll see a little bit of, if Kasuga can be a bit more decisive with like a lead that he's had. He definitely had a comfortable composition there, which is kind of interesting. It's definitely something that you don't see that much of when it comes to doing the Protoss composition. I feel like it might become a little bit more commonplace now that we have like all those tools like early Clarion, Vibrance, obviously later on into the game, that sort of stuff. Now we are going to see a Lattice in response to what Kasuga is observing here. I'm not quite sure what he wants to do with that. And it's funny, Haunt goes for a second gateway, and so it's really amusing to me that we've got like double gate lattice for both players, but the order was different. This Legionnaire claims the life of the scout scribe that Kasuga sent off and will be Haunt's scout. Of course, the Hierophant really, really well suited to deal with this, right? He's going to get in and see pretty much everything he needs to as far as that goes, but he was never in a million years going to be able to kill a worker or do any harassment because the Hierophant basically shuts that down immediately. So Haunt will get his scout off, and he will also sort of buy himself a little bit of time, punish the scout of Kasuga. I also think that if Kasuga's scout arrives later in the game, it's possible that the Legionnaire opening kills it before the scout can actually see what the follow-up is. Because if that happened, then there would be no information on the lattice. Obviously, the second gate was done in absence of any knowledge, so Kasuga doesn't know about that. He's adding a simulacrum. He's going to add more Hierophants. Looks like that's going to be his composition. It makes sense, actually. If you see a lattice and your enemy opened Legionnaire, there's a high likelihood that you can go something like Mass Hierophant, or at least like heavier on the Hierophant count. And your enemy doesn't really have the staying power to actually kill you. If they go heavy Legionnaire, that's a little bit different. But if your Hierophants can't die, then they're debuffing the enemy, and it gets to that point where it's really quite difficult for your opponent to really do anything. They're too busy being debuffed by all the Hierophants. So, it's funny because Hierophants and Legionnaires also synergize pretty well with each other. But the idea of that, Hierophants in small engagements, Hierophants neutralizing Legionnaires, and in large engagements, Legionnaires overwhelming Hierophants. It's just kind of an interesting little dynamic going on there. Haunt has queued up a few extra units, or ordered up a few extra units, and he's now waiting to drop his expansion. So his macro seems okay. He's definitely he's behind a little bit worker-wise, but only a little bit. And the one Vassal is coming up, but there are a couple of units over here. Now, it's happening at the same time as Kasuga is actually going to end up killing one of those melee combatants, and now expediting his attack speed, enchanting it with those Hierophants. This is a really tough situation for Haunt to be in. He has no damage. His Zealots were actually a lot of his damage. The Vassal scouts out that the Nexus has been dropped. There's actually not that much here. A single, idol looks like it was trying to make a run, a mad dash to distract the army. But yeah, I mean, Haunt has almost no combat units, and Kasuga hasn't dropped his own Nexus. He's just continuing on with 2-gate lattice. He's got enough money for the Nexus, they'll do it now. But this is a really dangerous position for Haunt to be in, because he could just end up getting overwhelmed by the army count. Obviously, these are not like Class 1 players per se, and the whole point of it is to represent a lower level of play. I liked the theory of what Haunt was doing, but he did end up just getting overwhelmed by the sheer number of forces here. And the Hierophants did exactly what I thought they would. They wouldn't die by any of the forces that Haunt was building. He wasn't making Dracodons. He wasn't making anything that he could actually use to snipe those bad boys. He has to call GG, and that means Kasuga goes up to a very fast 2-0 start. Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to Game 3. Kasuga is now challenged on Frosted Forest by SosijLord. He is our liver Zerg in the top right. I can't believe I guessed that color right. And Kasuga is our... Oh, this looks like it's the same color as the first one, maybe? I can't remember what I guessed, like pumpkin or electric orange, so I'll guess pumpkin. Oh, it's just regular orange. Okay, interesting. Well, Kasuga's in the bottom left, and he is our Protoss player. This is, by the way, I didn't really talk about the 6-pool from SosijLord, by the way. Very, very interesting. We'll see what that... I almost never see this happen against Protoss. Like, they can add the Warden in their mineral line when they scout it. They obviously have the Gateway coming and, like, 1 Zealot plus Workers. Just Workers alone could probably kill the Zets or whatever. If you go Quas, it doesn't get there fast enough. You can't snipe a pylon anymore because the Nexus is a power field, etc., etc., etc. But I just haven't seen that very often. We'll see how it pans out. Obviously, this is a lower level game, as mentioned previously. It's not upper class stuff. So will Kasuga parry it well? That's an open question. Saving some of the larvae here, waiting for the ever important 3 larva timing of that pool. And as the pool finishes mutating here, I just want to point out, I didn't really talk about this, but the format of this tournament was such that the challenger, the player who, in this case SosijLord, who is waiting for that previous game to finish and then challenges the winner stays on, King of the Hill style, they picked the map. So SosijLord picked Frosted Forest and has gone for the 6-pool. I don't know if there's something that he sees about this map that leads him to believe that this is a little bit more easy to pull off on this kind of situation. Maybe it's the idea that, like, well, it's the same level choke. There's no cliff advantage to the choke or even into the main base, so there's no ramp, and put another way. So it's going to be 6 Zets. He goes immediately into a follow-up that's more economic, so this is not an all-in play. But I usually don't like the positions that Zerg get themselves into when they do this kind of 6-pool strategy. It doesn't have the same bite as a 4-pool in StarCraft 1, but it might be able to do some damage. I mean, it's 6 Zets versus a Zealot, and the Zealot is kind of out in the open. You know, if I'm SosijLord, I'm diving on that sucker all day long, but he wants to go for the Scribes instead. Makes sense. He's going to deny a little bit of mining time. Now he's going to go and try to surround the Zealot, and he will actually almost narrowly end up picking it, but it was in the mineral line, and that's where Kasuga can simply pull his workers and deny you access in that way. So not a single worker goes down. No, I tell a lie. There was one worker that went down. The Zealot is almost immediately ruined, dropped down to, like, what, 4 hits of the Zets before it was killed, so or maybe 5 after armor calc. So pretty significant there, but not quite able to finish the job. And now we have a couple of combat units being made, with SosijLord thinking about setting up some forward static defense structures. If these both turn into circuits, I'm really not feeling his comp here. Well, the first one does. Yeah, I think he needed a Larvosk here yesterday, really, at this point. Like, he's got the gas for it, of course, but definitely feels like he needs more military production. He needs more workers. But he also is really, really worried about the counter push because he scouted 2 gate. And there's a 3rd gate follow-up. I mean, Kasuga seems to know exactly what he needs to do. SosijLord has put himself in a really rough position. If he doesn't make a lot of static defense, and, you know, since he doesn't have the larva or the resources to really do much, well, he picks the Zealot. That's a good start. And double circuits should cancel the initial plans for the attack. You know, he's not going to cancel that gate and then throw it on a Nexus or anything, but maybe it forces him to change his strat, or he just goes more Zealot heavy. He's got his Scribe in the natural, so I guess he wants to go for an Expo. Definitely going to deny the move here. Oh, he's going to actually force a... Oh, man, he just gets an outright kill. That's basically he just killed a worker right there. That is pretty significant. And you saw SosijLord's thought process. He wanted to see if he could try to slap him down that way, but no, after the cheese opener didn't quite work out, the economic follow-up, not so economical. Sausage has 300 Vespine. No way to spend it all. Hydra's down on the way. I guess if he can get a number of Hydras, he can force his way back into the game, but... Oh. Screw that, Kagran. Is he going to go Khaz'trith on 1 base? Please. Oh, no. So the Khaz'trith is a very powerful but gas-intensive cell, a tissue that provides you a ton of extra value because every attack can target an extra unit for half damage. 2 extra units for half damage, actually. So it ends up providing you with, you know, your Quas is going to hit 3 Zealots, for example. Your Circuith will hit 3 Zealots, etc. So anything with that yellow overlay has that benefit. And so it's a pretty powerful centralized defensive structure. And... that there's things to be appreciative about that. But it sets you behind so much, and it takes so long for you to be able to relocate that because you need tier 2 transports to pick it up and move it somewhere. So now we've got the Hatrosk coming down, but the Hatrosk is not protected by the Khaz'trith, right? So this is kind of this is a very rough situation to be in. He could have maybe saved that gas, used it for a Larvos, that sort of thing. Right now, he's very, very low on production. He obviously had a decent amount of float there for a while as well. And now he's forced Kasuga into a fight that maybe Kasuga doesn't quite want to take, but his Zealots are staying alive. His Ecclesias are attacking the hatch, which is not really ideal. He's actually pulled back both Zealots. I don't know how he managed to do that. Not a single Protoss casualty has been found so far in this army, just to point out. Kasuga's still rocking out right next to that hatch. He's going to wait for some combat units to finish before SosijLord tries to go for the... resultant attack. He's got a couple of Zero Cores out. They can splash down, maybe help negate some of the Ecclesias shield healing. There's not a lot of damage with this army, but a lot of these units don't have a lot of health, so that's a factor as well. The Ardent Authority coming down. The Nexus finished up there for Kasuga. He's now going to fall back. See how much value he can get in this composition. He's lost 2 Ecclesias. They'll speed their way out. So when the Ecclesias dies, it creates a speed aura for a brief period of time just for the... like it applies a speed effect to the Protoss army there. Couple Zealots on rally. They might actually get jumped up on here. Oh yeah, a couple Gateway units getting bruised. Actually, not so much. They only really broke the shields. No focus fire there. Witness getting sort of zoned away. There's detection from the Ovolith and the Khaz'trith, so the Witness has to watch itself. Plus, the Spraith always surprises people how far it reaches. It is a very, very far-reaching structure. So... very, very nice range of 9. Oh, look at that. He's even going to get the kill. That's nice. I think that's the first time SosijLord has actually deliberately managed the witness count of Kasuga. We obviously remember that Apollo game. I did not see all of the action, but it didn't really look to me like Kasuga was ever stymied or foiled in any way when going for those information pushes. The Ardent Authority is done. It goes straight into prostration. Doesn't look like any combat units were made, or any units at all from the Ardent Authority. It also affords you the Clarion. I'll have to keep tabs on that. The Hydrith Den now mutating into the Ski-backed Scab. And Tier 3 Disciple Tech is the prostration stage, so we could see Pariahs. I would say that's a high likelihood. I know since I've seen Kasuga play a little bit, I know he's a fan of the Mind Tyrant. Its revision included the Malefactor passive, or ability rather, and the Malefactor is basically like a champion of darkness because it's my tyrant and it's profane and evil. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. If we get to the point where that's what Kasuga is making, I will of course expound my knowledge into you so that you can understand what I'm talking about. But a very powerful spellcaster unit, that's for sure. Specialist, as we call them in Cosmonarchy. But more than likely, I would say Pariahs will be a really solid meat shield, deal a lot of AoE damage. Souped up Zealot in some ways. Also a profane, mechanized heretic. Now, the Eskagan is on the way. That's the gas ridge cap for SosijLord. We already saw Sedents and Aquifers being made in the main base. Sedents plural, I suppose, considering the natural. Expanding the build area here. He's like, oh yeah, Haunt made a pylon. That's funny. I should do that. But later. Most Protoss feel that way. I feel like Sausage could actually go for a third base here, but he's just woefully undersaturated, making a few workers. I don't know if it was a mistake, like unintentional, that he went for the Rilla Rokors, but he could do that. We did see Cannoli doing a funny strategy where he had the Rilla Rokors kind of escorted to the front line a little bit by the Zoryus, or at least attempted to. We've seen that in a few games now. The Witness spotting the natural here, sees that there's not that many Droleths. So when you scout a lack of saturation, you know that there's been a lot of expenditure on military. We'll see what Kasuga really wants to do here. I actually like that, whether it was a mistake or deliberate, the Rilla Rokor is now patrolling the edge of Kagra so that they can make sure to catch any drops that come in or, that sort of thing. That's actually pretty effective. Indeed, the Pariahs are on the way. A couple Sycophants as well. So anti-ground melee splash is seemingly where SosijLord is going to have to contend with a lot of Kasuga's army on, because that basically does cover Zeth, Quaz, Iziracor, and if the Pariahs get on top of the Bactylisks, I mean, you'll just never kill them. You need a lot of Hydras to actually do anything with that. The Witness count also means, and plus the Clarion here as well, the Witness count does kind of force SosijLord into an awkward position. He can't really go for a Zorkish Shroud and go into Lakiz or anything. I think at this point, Sausage really needs to fully saturate, get his gas cap up in the natural, and go for a tier 2 timing on 2 bases. It's not ideal, but nor was his opening, right? So definitely a rough spot for our Zerg player to find himself in. Remember, this did start with a 6 pool. So in some ways, it's kind of remarkable that we're still in the game. But in other ways, you can see Kasuga just kind of goes through the motions, sets up his third base, does his matrixes, does his Sedent. He's got everything he needs, really. He's even capped the main geyser, or the natural geyser. So he's sitting pretty on the tech front. He's going to be able to power pretty much everything he needs, adding more gateways and lattices, a crucible in the main base to really crucially power pretty much everything, including make scribes faster from his main nexus, which is an underrated aspect of the crucible, I think. Now here come a horde of Zethrakors, but the matrixes are already up. They might still be able to break through. These idle scribes actually were helping out a lot, and now that they're pulled away, that's actually, funnily enough, a decision that might end up being funnily advantageous for our Zerg player. He's got to tear down the matrixes. That's not bad. Zets are really cheap. You get 2 of them for 25 minerals. So when you see like 16 of them go down, at first you're thinking, oh my god, that's a lot of larvae, that's a lot of minerals. It's not really that many, right? It's 8 times 25. So you're talking about 200 minerals to kill 2 matrixes, whatever that was. I don't even know if that was 16. But that's just like, you get the picture. You don't want to throw them away for nothing, but trading them to kill static defense is never a bad move, in my opinion, since you will be able to run by later on in the game. I think the further away people expand as well, like when you're talking about people taking their 4th and 5th bases, run-bys become significantly more powerful. It's only a question of whether or not it'll make things happen now or later in the meta. Since some players really like them and swear by them, and some players think they're fake and say that, no, there's no way. But coincidentally, it doesn't seem like I see them trying them very often in their games. Wink. That being said, the detection of the Ovaleth here is going to reveal that Witness, and SosijLord is going to try to jump on the opportunity. Doesn't end up going for the kill. It's got 1 Zethrakor in there, which is almost certainly a mistake, but that's okay. Zorka Shroud is indeed on the way, so he's not going for tier 2 like I was advising. Not that he needs to listen to me, and not that he could, because this is days later. Weeks later, in fact. The Unitary Union on the way, so SosijLord kind of going to a familiar composition, or at least a familiar tech. He's filtered in Pariah Sycophant in a way that he didn't previously, so I wonder if there's something in particular that told him to do that. Maybe it's just like, oh yeah, I feel like I want to do that now. SosijLord obviously did not go for Lakiz, so a different composition from the Zerg player as well. It's funny because you think about like what kind of adaptations would you make. Apparently 6-pool was on the list. I think he's going to need to go back to the drawing board on that one as well. As a reminder, it's first to 4 wins will top the group. So when we see Kassuga looking favored, looking advantaged, if SosijLord doesn't kill him here, then, and Kassuga wins again in the rematch versus Haunt, which isn't a guarantee necessarily. It felt like maybe an unlucky build order for Haunt to go down in. But if that ends up happening, and we end up seeing, you know, Kassuga 4-0, this is the last time SosijLord will get a chance to play against Kassuga in the tournament proper, and Kassuga will be our first place, our recipient of cash Mulam prize money. Now, stretching across the middle of the map, SosijLord obviously stringing out their army. They've got a pretty respectable army count. Scarily, though, Kassuga has almost the same amount of military units. In the top right, that's workers over military, obviously the worker count, dwarfing SosijLord to a ludicrous amount. But the military is not that far behind, right? And there's an Acantor in this army. I mean, a lot of Zerg units can splatter real quick. And we've got triple Clarion over here protecting just about everything. Good luck even trying to focus down individual targets until your Bactalisks try to snipe those Clarions. Looks like a couple of Zoryus ended up going down very early, and so we didn't see that many Broodspawn ensnaring things. He immediately has to fall back as his front line is collapsed. You see just how much better this army is at dealing damage? To it, the same deal, though, to the same degree. Low golem count, almost, obviously no vibrances or anything. If SosijLord's army was actually comparable in power to Kassuga's, the front line could have actually collapsed for Kassuga in the same way that he just kind of A-moved over what SosijLord had. We also definitely needed to see Bactalisk trying to focus down those Clarions, which are detecting the Lake is now. You need to be able to pick them. Look at how long this pariah takes to die. It finally will go down. His final war has been reached. Liberation, perhaps. Kassuga's army otherwise is going to go for the Deathless run. I'm sure there's a couple more units that'll go down here. Yeah, there you go. But at this point, right now, right here, it looks to me like, oh man, he's even failed to drop that third hatch. That would need to be fully mining and saturated at this point, though. I mean, look, he's got like 12 workers, by the way, in the main base mineral count. He's very, very dwarfed and low on that. The thing is, like, he's got so much Vespi, and this is the inverse problem of before. His main base is mineral depleted. He's got hardly any workers here. For the record, you need 14 workers on a 7-patch mineral field. This is actually an 8-patch. So you need the number of mineral fields times 2 for baseline saturation, and the third worker is still useful. It's just much less efficient, right? The drill is actually going to go ahead and burrow instead of making something because he doesn't have the money. So he's like, oh, well, at least I'll burrow. Little does he know, or maybe he already did see. Actually, that's an opportunity. There's a witness there. The Clarions were actually left out in the open. If SosijLord had tried to focus them down, he might have been able to break them real quick. I don't think it would have afforded him much consolation. It would have been a Pyrrhic victory over his opponent as Kassuga just charges forward. He's got pariahs. He's got zealots. He's just going to keep on rocking out. It does feel like what Kassuga is missing right now is some kind of speed boost to kind of negate the effects of the Zoryus Broodspawn that are slowing him down a little bit. But really also he could just A-move his opponent at this point, I think. He doesn't quite believe in the heart of the cards, but he can just right-click into his opponent's base, or I guess A left-click into his opponent's base. And he's definitely toying with his food a little bit right now as he masses up more of an army. The Bactals are out, the Zoryus are out. We got loads of Hierophants still within the army as well that are adding a lot of painful slowing of key combat units that SosijLord would desperately like to keep making. He's made so many Bactals, but he has no way of penetrating the armor of the front line. You got pariahs, you got golems, even without half the army. Look at how much damage he's doing with a fraction of his army. He's cleared all the Zoryus. Only the Bactals are remaining. Like, maybe SosijLord's like, oh wait, I might have been able to do something there, but no, then he sees the whole breadth of the Protoss army, and he's like, never mind. SosijLord, no third base still. We got an Ancestral Archives on the way for Kassuga back there. That's tier 4 Disciple Tech. I don't think it's going to matter. It's not even going to finish because right now, Kassuga is diving forward. I think one of his servitors went down or something to speed his army up, and that's exactly what he needed to really get deep into this. The Clarions have been zoned away, it seems. Bounce's kind of sending them packing for a moment, but it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. He's got so many combat units. It's too much. It's way too much. My friends, we are witnessing Kassuga ascend. First place, 3 victories, charging forth with the shield-sustained composition of the century. Taiwan represent. And, I mean, long live South America, but you guys are kind of toast here. We'll see if Haunt can represent his region a little bit better in his second showing against Kasuga, because we are about to head into Game 4. And unfortunately, my prediction about the Ancestral Archives not completing was wrong. It finished in the last literal half second of that video. So, hey, we'll be back with Game 4. Howdy do, folks. It's Game 4 of Group F. We're calling it Strange Lands here, as, well, this is, I think, the only group without a North American in it, which is pretty funny. Oh, that's not true. Jack Yelansky, Blade Hollow RWL, and this is Jimmy all played. And that's like a Filipino, a Russian, and a Ukrainian. So pretty cool stuff there. Haunt in the bottom right is going to be our Glacial Terran. Oh, Electric Blue, my mistake. And he is random. He told Kasuga that he was Protoss in their first match on Radium. But now we go to Near Impact by Jujic, and he has not told his opponent that he's Terran. So Kasuga is going to scout him. And he is in the top left as our Maroon Protoss. Gateway obviously all in the way. We got double stockade, so this man is after Shambler's Heart, it seems. You'll note that the ramp is up here, so he's not really hiding them. Hiding them would be all the way over here. Which, by the way, I feel like as Terran, you can kind of get away with that. If you were to do something like put your first couple structures over here, your enemy might think, oh my god, I'm being proxied. Because obviously your Mason count would be low on the minerals because you're building, right? But then you just like go to the side and see them if you scouted fully, right? So that could catch some people off guard. People just don't check for that. That's an easy thing to fix if you're like, what the hell? If you know the main base has like a path like that, that's really hard to see. But we'll see what happens because there's a Maverick all the way on the way. Haunt really likes scouting with a military unit. And true to form, Kasuga has gone for a delayed Hierophant now, just so you can get an Ecclesiast out to riposte this kind of thing. The Hierophant does take more resources and more time to actually make. Haunt is going to go for an Anchor. So it looks to me like Haunt is expecting there to be a significant, like, kind of gateway-based push. He stims pretty late. He is going to be able to get in and see what's going on. Maverick could have been killed by the scribes. He might even end up getting a kill here, surprisingly. Not quite. Maybe if he had dodged that last attack, he would have actually, or gone for a stim or something. But either way, that is going to favor Kasuga ever so slightly. Workers have been... Actually, Kasuga's going to fall down in worker count a little bit here because he's cut workers to make these units, or maybe he's just forgotten to make them. So a rare moment like that. I guess he's saving up for his fast expansion. Doesn't suck. Not a terrible idea. Apologies for that little blip. We have a third stockade coming for Haunt. He is going to be going up against a Protoss that has cut a little bit of worker, a little bit of military, mostly worker, to get that Nexus up pretty fast. So obviously Kasuga isn't really going to be able to break through. I would pause it. I would posture, even though there's a lot of idle units over here for Haunt. I don't think he's going to be able to break through with his Gateway army up the ramp when there's an Anchor and there's a bunch of bio units being rallied over. He needs to find out that he's got these units here. I think he's kind of forgotten that he had them or something. Maybe he might discover them later. Has he set rallies? Okay, he has. So at least he won't lose any further ones. But yeah, it's kind of a curious play, right? Because Kasuga is still not making workers right now. He's like maintained on baseline. He's got one idle, but he's maintained on like baseline saturation, right? 14 workers there, capping his ridge. And that's pretty much it. He's now massing up at the 3 o'clock position just to see what else he can come up with. Okay, well, we've got Vestry, we've got 4th Stockade, so a lot of bio production coming up for Haunt, and he's going for the Sieve. So I wonder if there's, like, the Ridge Cap here would point towards maybe Covenant play or a mech transition, but the Stockade count makes me feel like it's not going to be a mech transition. He's going Cleric, so he's saving his gas, not going Shaman for that. We need to figure out when Haunt is actually going to be rocking and rolling with a heavier sort of gas play, and when he's going to go for an expansion as well, because that's really going to tell us what he plans to do. I didn't really cover this too much because the first game that Haunt played was pretty fast, but it's worth pointing out as a player who is very new to the project, you know, as far as I know, he started playing less than a month before this tournament began, so this is still within his first month of competition. Same for Kasuga and Sausage. So all of that being said, as he drops his Ministry, he is going to go Covenant. I don't know how much he's watched the channel. I don't know how attuned he is with all the casts and all the meta, you know, up to date on that kind of thing, and knows like unit comps or whatever. Being random as the player of that kind of familiarity level is an impressive, ambitious goal. I love that Kasuga's left behind a single Zealot over here, even if it does get wrapped and bopped before he can respond. It's still an opportunity. He's actually looking over. He's like, oh, yes, I have vision. Of course, this is technically high ground. So Haunt does not have vision. He's only now going to see it, and he will clear it relatively easily. But Kasuga now knows the complexion of the army. He doesn't immediately know if the move-out's coming. He's going to go ahead and drop some static defense now. But really nice play there because he's aware of when the move-out happens. Then he responds with static defense. He doesn't make it preemptively as that slows everything else down. Haunt has one Watchdog and an empty Lodestone. The one Vassal is potentially going to be able to find some value on to the south of that whole defensive setup. Redundancy Pylon there for Kasuga. Both of them kind of on the front line. Rogue Gallery, Kabbalist. We don't see Rogue Gallery too often anymore, and I think it's really a damn shame. Oh, look at that. He garrisoned it just in time, and now he's actually noticed, oh, I had a Maverick and a Rock in here the whole time. Beautiful. But yeah, we don't actually see the Kabbalist used as often as we used to. I'm not really 100% sure why. It somehow seems to have fallen out of favor. Maybe people just learned to build the build the detection properly at the higher tier, or people just, for some other reason, stopped using it. Who knows? Witness dispatched to the 3 o'clock position for Kasuga. Definitely looking to see what else he can make happen there with a little bit of extra vision. One of his savants is out here with, oh, there's no rally point on this stockade. Yeah, so that's a pretty big deal. I have the config option set so that I can do the... I can do Alt while selecting it to see if it has a rally or if it has an order or whatever. And yeah, so no rally on that. So the first couple of units are not actually being seen, at least this first Savant is. That's a kind of like a consistent issue actually for him. Now the Lodestone will provide detection, but there's no such thing over here. So Haunt is going to have to respond to this. He's setting off to see if he can maybe pressure somewhere. There's the third base that's naked. He's lost 2 Masons so far. He's forgotten that he's got a rally right here. So really all Kasuga can do in this position is try to go after some of the production because the Lodestone is going to provide detection. That being said, we have a stim coming in. It looks like actually with the Kabbalist off to the side, Kasuga did not want to be paying attention to that right now. He's floating a ton of money right in this moment. Oh, there's no expansion over here at the third base. I thought that was like a weirdly placed like pylon and something, but no, it's actually an army. So Kasuga kind of set up pretty well to do some sort of split here. I've never seen Cyprian versus Matrix, but with the Cleric, actually, that was working out pretty well. Haunt did not quite know that, per se. He's actually going to go for Fulcrums. I don't think he realizes. He busts that Matrix. He can range down the pylons just with pure Cyprian, and then what are you going to do as Kasuga? That's going to force his hand over here. Definitely an option for him, but does he recognize it? Only now getting back to saturating in the natural, and saturation is a strong word for 4 Masons. So we're definitely seeing a different layer of macro capabilities out of Kasuga. Haunt is struggling a little bit there, but I will point out, I mean, I think clearly Kasuga is looking like a pretty strong class 3 player. I mean, he's already got that rank because he's just been playing so many other games that I have seen, right? Giving him the runaround, trying to see what he can do. And remember, he's still got that other army he can use to sandwich in. His Witness has been watching stuff in the middle of the map. He's just set this up pretty well. And it doesn't really feel like there's a way out of this game for Haunt because there's a Crucible-empowered Quad Gateway 2 Stargate coming up online in the main base for Kasuga. And now his army's bisected. The rest of it is going to end up falling. He has got some Savants here. He's switched one of them into that deployed mode. Actually, 2 of them. And they are going to gun through everything there. Kasuga only now realizing, oh, I'm in danger. But if Haunt doesn't do critical infrastructure damage here, break in, deny the natural, and then somehow hold the counter push that happens after that with Kasuga's Gladius is coming online, I really don't think this is going to work out too well for him, and he's just hemorrhaged a bunch of units on the, not managing them, right? So I think Haunt, on the converse end, conversely as Kasuga is looking primed for his championship in this group, his winning ways. I will just say, I think he's in a good spot here. Haunt can probably be a class 3 player with just a little bit more of a nudge towards the macro stuff, right? If you leave him alone, he probably plays like a class 3 player in some ways, right? Insofar as he's got reasonable unit choice, he understands like general flow of things. But if his crisis response levels up, if he is able to maybe also have a bit more faith in what he's got, like that Matrix fight or whatever earlier. That being said, of course, we know that the counterpunch would have been big. But, generally speaking, if his killer instinct is more there, that could definitely work out in his favor. I don't think he collapsed entirely with the Kabbalist, but just not getting the macro routines down with the workers, right? That's like a key detail. So I'm still kind of torn on how to sort him. But, there's other games in this group yet to be cast, so there is that as well. Double Stockade from Haunt as adding on to his production. He's only got the one add-on on each kind. Got the sieve, but nothing mining from the geyser, which feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity. And no detection here from Shaman or Anseal. So no way to deny that witness vision. An engram as well as a matrix coming online here for Kasuga, but that pylon looking very juicy. And once again, he's just kind of posturing his army off to the side a little bit. It seems like he might have... Oh, are we going to see it? Are we going to see the move? Does he know the move? I guess not. The savants in this mode have a penetrating shot, same as Cyprian's. So you could actually take, say, the phalanx, put it like right here, and shoot it, and then the witness would take splash damage. So take direct damage actually, and your phalanx would take less damage. So you know that's a high IQ move, high mechanical IQ move. So pretty smart stuff there, has to be said if it happens, but it doesn't look like it is. Reasonable military production out of Haunt. It's just that we've got a Gladius Death Ball massing up, so I can't be super faithful, exactly. I can't necessarily be a Haunt faithful. That being said, with Kasuga setting up for a big surround, I think this endgame fight is going to be even more explosive than I imagined. He's already got enough units to stymie the push. Only one phalanx out here. Oh, but it gets aggroed off to the other side. Now here come the power siphon. So the Discord Railgun is going to start speeding up. If those savants can stay alive long enough, maybe they can actually do something here. But I don't think the answer is yes, and this is without the air stack even being invoked. Remember, we've got a big old army elsewhere. The Gladiuses are moving in to aim at that natural. The main army has fallen for Haunt. He's losing another phalanx as well. He's got one more with this army. Not that it's that impactful that it's going to deal with everything he's got, but you know, he's got an okay army here. It's just that he's got almost nothing to stop the Gladiuses from raiding him. Like, when your enemy has all this ground army to take it to you and fight you on the front lines, on the ground, make it difficult for you, and then has all these Gladiuses to cancel your third base, to kill your third base outright, and, you know, he punches through your ground army with his ground army, and then attacks you with his air army, you know you're behind economically. Is the only explanation for how you've been routed to this degree. Now, these Gladiuses are being splashed by Cyprian shots, but the Mason count has fallen to a critically low level. You can see him even thinking about going after that lodestone, but, you know, he's actually going to stay and fight, and he's done a lot of splash damage to the rest of the army. Not really all that great setup over here. The Phalanx is not deployed on the high ground, so yeah, I think at this point, Kasuga has done it. He's even killed the lodestone with the Gladius there. GG has to be called. That's another win for Kasuga, and now the remaining games will be Haunt versus SosijLord, the latter of whom will be our technical challenger and pick the next map. Someone will not be winless after this game. SosijLord in the top left is our Palatinate purple. Oh, Cordovan. I was way off. Cordovan Zerg in the top left of Demaloon. He picked this map into Haunt, who has rolled Terran again, and I think he must have just said what he is, or I actually wasn't paying any attention to that. Sorry about that, guys. Haunt. Oh man, this color is tough. It's either teal or mint. I guess I'll say mint. Oh, it was teal. Okay. Well, you win some, you lose some. I lose them all. Haunt is in here in the bottom right. He is rocking out with a stockade. He wants to go bio yet again. Redeem himself versus SosijLord. Now, I can't recall if SosijLord played a lot of prep games for this tournament versus like SGZZZ, who's since the tournament has been played, has emerged as a fairly active player, also from Peru, a countryman of SosijLord's. So, yeah, interesting stuff. I would say we're still looking for ranks here, you know? Does Haunt have what it takes to show me what he can do and how he can become a Class 3 player? And same for SosijLord. Neither of the two players I think I've assigned a rank to yet. Or if I have, I didn't remember. So I'm pretending that it didn't happen. No 6 pool this time for SosijLord, going for that Kagrant into Larvosk. Pool follow-up. So going back to the first game that SosijLord played, it's a similar opening. Haunt going for the fast anchor feels like maybe he's worried about a potential 6 pool from SosijLord, right? So he's like, all right, I'll make the anchor. I don't think it hits in time. The anchor finishes in time for that to really matter. And even if it did, think about it, right? You're talking about a situation where you've got an anchor and the Zerg just runs past it with their Zeths, right? So it's not really going to help you out that much. Now, I don't know. I can't really know for sure what he's thinking, but definitely an interesting choice. He's also going for the sieve after and mass gas mining. Does he want to go for like pads or something? He's like 2-pad Wraith? I don't know. I'm thinking about like what that could possibly mean. Another Kagrant spreading the Kagra down to the ramp. I think it'll narrowly not hit. but I have definitely seen Hit 'em Up do builds like this as well. So, you know, if Hit 'em Up does it, I was going to say you can too, but Hit 'em Up has a lot of mechanical skill, so maybe you can't do it. He's thinking about it. He's dancing. Trying to find a good spot. There it is. I guess I don't hate that positioning for a Circuit, but... well, why make static defense when you can make production and units? I guess the answer is so you can make workers, but whatever. This one Maverick is about to be devoured. He just walks right into the Hornet's nest. He's like, yeah, whatever. I know my fate. Oh, but he's fighting back. Oh, he tries to get past there, but that pool is tight. This reminds me of the pool building placements of StarCraft 1, right? You put this here to stop like melee units from running through in like ZVP and stuff like that. So pretty nifty. Nifty to see it happen in Cosmo. Another anchor right there. So really, Roquor, go out. The land will die soon. Yes. Yes, Kasuga. He's, Kasuga doesn't speak great English. Or maybe he doesn't speak any English, but he doesn't type great English. But I think his comprehension is there. So he's got the right words. But he's, maybe he's also running the translator. I don't remember. Either way, the Zets end up going down. SosijLord will scout that there was an expansion attempt being made there. The anchor has 4 Mavericks in it. It's a cheeky move. Problem is, I think with this positioning, yeah, this will definitely be scouted by SosijLord. One cheeky thing you could try to do is, like, you know, keep it over here, and then if SosijLord just, like, waypoints a worker here to expand, the worker will die, obviously, to the Mavericks inside. But at this point, I don't think this is going to affect too much change, right? I mean, we're seeing Haunt will be able to... He's revealed, you know, SosijLord immediately jumps on him. He's like, hey, what's up, dude? How you feeling? He's blocking it. Oh, he actually gets the unload off. Will he kill any units? The answer is no. Well, he at least got Zorka Shroud and Hydra then. He says, oops, and then, howdy. I love the banter in tournament games. Is always fun. That's another Stockade coming up for Haunt, and we've got a Ministry nearly completed in his natural, so I guess we'll see if he can hold on to it, because Sausage obviously is expanding his tech, but he's also expanding his expansion count, the base count. So I am curious, right? Like, when you go for this kind of timing where both of your structures finish up at a similar time, usually that means that you're going to use your larva to immediately jump into some action, right? Immediately get some value added for your tech. Start leveraging it. Some kind of timing attack. But instead, he goes for the expansion. He's going to make triple Gorg. Tanky air unit that cleaves ground units for splash. Has a pretty piddling anti-air attack. We've got one Lake Kizilisk on the way as well, and no usage of the Hydra Thin just yet, so I guess he wanted maximum flexibility. Might start that a little bit later, capping the Ridge in his main base, as we see Haunt not exactly preemptively capping in the natural, but pretty close to it. Just kind of streaming out more bio. He's been mining a lot of Vespian and banking it. I wonder if he isn't just going to go for a fast tier 2. Oh, I like this, says Kasuga. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like that's what Haunt is doing here. He's almost got the resources for it. I assure you, he is mining from the main geyser and the main sieve. And there it is, tier 2 on the way at 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Not too shabby. He needs to be able to hold on to whatever SosijLord is going to throw at him. But this could be a significant edge for him. The Gorgs are going to swoop into the main base. We have a Lodestone with Cyprians in it, which really is not going to help him out too much. And he has got no units here on the defense. He's got Mavericks coming out. You can kind of stem him on there. What's the reaction time looking like here? He's going to hear the shots fired. Oh, dear. Oh, golly. Well, he's going to try to get his Masons out of harm's way. His army is going to try to engage over here, but there's one Kizilisk that's just going to never be revealed. There's nothing here to detect. So Haunt is losing almost everything on all fronts. His Atlas, halfway dead, halfway complete, I should say, has been attacked and disrupted in its construction. And his main army is basically in shambles. The one Gorga Core is still alive, still heckling, still stopping mining. It's a standstill economically. He's got 11 workers and just as many military units. His Atlas needs to be resumed ASAP. ASAP, I say. Ouch, he says. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just calls GG here. He's got almost nothing mining. Definitely a cataclysmic loss for just running into 3 Gorgs. And, you know, he did scout that both of those tech structures were there, but he might not have clicked on them. That is a fair thing to guess. And plus, you know, do you know every unit that comes out of every structure? I don't know. But, you know, more things to think about there. The anchor was pushed forward. We are going to get that vestry add-on. The Atlas is still continuing to be constructed. We got some static defense coming up online, as well as the lake is. The lake is, these ones should just actually move across the map, I think. I don't think you really need to worry too much about a follow-up push. But, you know, SosijLord is, to some degree, respecting what his opponent might be still capable of doing. He doesn't really know what the army size is. That's another thing that, like, when you get to the point where you have a... Thanks, Kasuga. When you get to the point where you have the game running in such a fashion where, like, you're still new to it, and you've done a lot of damage to your opponent. You know you've done a lot of damage, but do you know how much they should have? And so that lack of knowledge can definitely be confusing for you, right? It's like, okay, I don't really know what all the deal is. So he's going to come in with some Gorgs. He'll kill a Cleric, which is very unfortunate for Haunt. Any death from anything that he's got is very unfortunate for him. He's now going to be besieged at the front gates. He has no detection. The lake is burrow right in front of the anchor. No way for him to reveal that. Needs to get on top of them with Hurricanes or something, and that's never going to happen with all these Quas. SosijLord accidentally burrowing his Quas when he meant to unburrow his lake is, but it's not really going to matter. His Quas count is too high. The Mavericks with Stimpak can do a lot here, but the Lakers are going to run in and start leveling the natural worker line. The liftoff is good. That's actually going to be helpful for Haunt because it kind of forces all of his units to immediately pass through, but there's no other units here to defend, and this is GG. Haunt is going to be down 0-3 with SosijLord getting on the board. GG, damn. You know, he got tier 2 done, but he never actually was able to build anything with it, right? So kind of a cheeky little strat there, not working out for him. Well, let's see. If we see one more game between these two, which we will, guaranteed, if Haunt goes for a victory, that will be a decider. That will force the decider to see which one of them scores second place. If SosijLord wins the next one, that is it for our group. So I will see you guys in Game 6. Here we are, and Haunt has shared his race in the top right of Genesis Y, a map of his choosing. He is our red Protoss in the top right, or is it Vivid Red? Fuck it, it's Vivid Red. Oh, god damn. And SosijLord is in the bottom right. Oh, man, I should have saved my random color guess here, because this isn't dark olive, but it kind of looks like it. It's not light olive either, is it? Beastra Brown? Beastra Brownzer. It was light olive. Wow, I really suck at guessing those colors. Anyway, SosijLord is in the bottom right. He is rocking and rolling. His Kagrin is dropped, and he's not going to be six-pulling the man. The man, the myth, the legend. Haunt going for that gateway. You know, his Protoss didn't seem too bad. It's just the problem is we didn't really get a chance to see too much of it, right? And honestly, his Terran versus Kasuga was a little bit better. He just went for that risky play, right? It's in the same way that, like, when you have a brittle army in PvP and you go for the Nexus, you could just get counterpunched, right? That could happen. And that's basically what happened on Radium versus Kasuga. But when it comes to SosijLord, the game versus SosijLord on Demaloon, which, by the way, is a remake of Overwatch. It's map ported by Jujic and remade by Jujic there. Genesis Y is kind of based on Origin X and Origin Y. Or no, is that right? I think it's Origin. Anyway, it's the Starcraft 1 maps, right? The Brood War maps. But Bitty has done this map. And so it's kind of based on that, a reimagining of that. You see this, like, down here in the bottom left? It's kind of like a weird, twisted, shifty smiley face. Smirking. Now, it's double gate into lattice again, so it's kind of similar to the build that he did versus Kasuga on Radium. But SosijLord here, just going to go stick to his pool. He's done the Kagrin into Circuith on the ramp. Honestly, it almost feels like that should be a Larvosk, judging by his gas count. But maybe he's got other plans. Could go for some kind of cheeky Nath Rush or something. Yeah, Haunt did this weird thing on Demaloon where he went for that tech rush, but he also wanted to go attack across the map. It feels like if you're already getting the tech, you have that advantage. You should probably just try and hold it, right? And his, you know, failed anchor cheese and stuff like that. So definitely some tricky things to deal with. Now, he's going to come in here before any combat units are ready. It sans the Rilla Rokors. The Legionnaire can obviously try to get its shields back, but it's not going to happen. It can. It essentially does 3-shot the Rilla Rokors, but then when they die, they ensnare, right? So that's kind of a problem. With Protoss, though, you can basically have your unit here and then like sit over here off to the side, and if the Rokors come to try to fight you, you just kind of dance out of their range so they don't replenish their timed life. I guess over here would be better for that since it's more maneuverable. But definitely an opportunity for you to basically it's you get your shields back that way, and then you can kind of come in and be annoying. This Droleth Scout has burrowed in the natural, so I suppose that'll come in handy later on for SosijLord when he needs more intel. Pylon by the ramp. Don't tell me you're going to make static defense here. Oh, no. You want it down here so you can expand behind it, right? So this Droleth will end up coming up here. SosijLord may have scout. Yeah, I think he selected the Matrix there just briefly. See what it is. When I see my opponent going for static defense on the high ground, I do think to myself, okay, I'm pretty comfy here. I guess I'll just go ahead and settle in. Because, like, they're not even going to be defending their natural properly, you know what I mean? But admittedly, he doesn't know what the tech is behind it. It could be, like, kind of a scary one-base all-in or something. So, we'll see. A second Matrix is going down to the mineral line, so Haunt is definitely behind in terms of, like, military progression. But SosijLord taking a very fast expansion and a Hydrothin follow-up. So this is his way of saying, like, okay, I've gone for less gas mining. I've gone for, you know, less Larvosks or whatever. I'm going to go for a faster hatch. And he still has gas to boot after throwing down his Orca Shroud as well. So really goes to show you how much Vespene you can have in the tank if you don't go for mass Larvosk in the early game. Round of Zeths are moving up towards where Haunt's secondary forces are coming through. There's actually potentially a bit of a risk here for Haunt to be, again, completely leaving the front lines there. So the Zeths are going to fall back. At the same time, SosijLord has only, like, barely any units over here. This could be a really good position here, especially since that Ascension proc came in. All right, well, the Zeths are going to come on in, but most of them are just going to get shredded before. 2 more Legionnaires on the way, not the biggest threat there. So it looks like that as the Hatrosk finishes up, SosijLord doesn't want to cancel it. He wants to try to fight around it, but he's got no military units coming up. So this is actually going to be a bit of a stalemate here because these static defense structures are going to finish up before Haunt can actually push up, it feels like. Well, maybe not. He could actually make the executive decision to push in. I love making the eggs here because you basically are just delaying him that much longer. And now Haunt's back at home spending his money instead of fighting up the ramp. So that was actually pretty clutch there from SosijLord. Nexus is going to finish up here, and Haunt should feel pretty good about that. Also of note, there's no third Larva, so there's no extra Larva production here. He really needs to use his static defense to kind of bail him out. And look at that. I mean, now he's got nothing. He's got very, very few workers. He spent 3 more workers on static defense over here, a 4th worker over here to make a Larvosk eventually. Like, you know, he's definitely in the doldrums, in the deep doo-doo. 3rd gate on the way for Haunt. I guess he's not really developing his position super well just yet. Could get more, maybe lean further into the economy or try to get up to a higher degree of tech. It's fine to get a 3rd gateway, but I don't know what it affords you in the matchup, right? Like, I guess you could try to overwhelm this position with just pure chaff, but as soon as you see the Khaz'trith up there and the reinforced nature of the position where you know, okay, you've got at least 2 circuits up there. I scouted previously that there was 1, but I just got hit by that one. And now the Kagrins is down here as well, so I know there's static defense close to that ramp. Yeah, it's really rough, right? So, something to think about. I'd be going for air or for siege, or otherwise just kind of leveraging a superior position to my opponent. And of course, being watchful for the air transition. He's got the Matrix, but it's in the mineral line. It's going to get splashed by the Gorga cores if it goes up there. Instead, though, SosijLord just making 1, using it for defense. It makes sense too. Most of the army here, like the units that attack air are the Hierophants, the Manifolds, and the Sims. And I guess there's a couple of Ecclesias here as well. So, but like the Zealots are a lot of the damage here. Zealot Legionnaire do not attack up, so doesn't suck as an option. He's going to come out and try to fight, but he's out of range of his static defense, so what is it really going to help him? The Gorga Core gets immediately picked by the Hierophants. 1 Zorius has fallen. I think Haunt should stay and fight. I mean, when he's got that red buff over him, his units are attacking 1/3 faster than normal. Like, it's a very, very powerful amount. Plus, his units are beefy enough he can stand on top of that lake and just kill it. Needs to believe in the heart of the cards. He's got more units streaming out. Oh, yeah, if he kind of sinks that army up on his rally, he can easily overwhelm the Zerg position here. So far away from that static defense, it's static for a reason. So at the very least, SosijLord has kind of pushed himself in an awkward spot, right? Because now he's invested so much static D. Oh, he even added backup circuits. These weren't even larvae. Oh my god, SosijLord has so few workers. I think Haunt's looking pretty good to take us to a decider, I'm gonna be honest. Hatrosk about 25% of the way complete. Natural will be coming online for SosijLord eventually, but so much of his defense is very far away. The follow-up attack from Haunt should be good. His embassy is nearly complete. He's going to go for detection. His Vassal coming in for a really good scout. Sees that the hatch has been put down again. Obviously, the Vassal has very low vision range, but definitely saw that. Golem's shifting over to the front lines. I think it would be a mistake to wait for detection just because of one lake is, right? But the Hydra count is pretty high. It is going to go ahead and break down some of the Golem and Zealot front line. Man, he's so powerful right now. Haunt does not realize how he could just pressure and muscle through the enemy. The lake is now moving even more to the front. Yeah, the beef from what Haunt has. He's making golems out of that lattice. Sometimes, not right now, but in general. A couple witnesses on the way. Where is the rally on these? Okay. It's more towards the natural than anything. So, gonna need to spend some time rallying it down for sure. Transferring a boatload of workers down here in the bottom left. Of course, his main still very undersaturated. Dude, look. That's 8 Droleths in the main mineral line. Just to point out how far behind SosijLord really is, economically speaking. Of course, Haunt could be making way more workers. Yeah, I mean, right now, I really do think that Haunt could just muscle through, especially now that he's got the Witness. There's not a second Khaz'trith over here. The circuits do complicate things a little bit, but it feels like he's got a good spread of units. The Stargate on the way, he might want to wait for that, I guess. I don't know. Part of me is worried. Oh, yeah, and, you know, SosijLord continues in the tried and true method. He establishes static defense, then he walks out away from the static defense, and, you know, at least this time he fell back to it, but, this is looking a little bit dicey. All right. I think the decision has been made for Haunt as he moves a little bit too close. That's one lake is down. There's 3 more here, and they are buried underneath a lot of this Zerg army. The Hydra's trying to fall back a little bit. The Zealot count still standing a little for a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer here. The front line working wonders. The splash damage spreading on the Sims. The attack speed increase from the Hierophants, but they're being minced. Those 2 Lakers in the back did so much damage. Almost 1,000 damage. Yeah, between the 2 of them, it's 1,500 damage there and counting. And so that will be the end of Haunt's big concentration of army. We've got 3 Hydras in the Ovelette that is going to go for a drop. Making a single Exemplar. Not a terrible idea, but you do need more than 1, ideally. And a range down Hydras really well with a ground and pound front line. He's got the Matrix in the mineral line here, but I think these Hydras can actually go for things like the Sedent, the maybe some of these pylons, that sort of stuff. Hydra's kind of stabbing up here. I mean, both of our players now have a much more comparable worker count. Base count still pretty good there. Obviously, SosijLord needs more workers, but does he really? Is he really going to be tasked with it? His Avaleth arrives. He's just kind of looking around. The Witness is now here, so that would have revealed to SosijLord that, like, or to Haunt that the transport was loaded. A couple Hydras getting bopped on the rally. That's not super good. Yeah, he's going to go after that pylon. I guess he might be able to get it, but, you know, a little bit of a sloppy follow-up there from, I guess, from both players. The Hydra's getting heckled out of town. Run out. Golems do a little bit of splash damage, so that's also helping out a little bit here. And the Hierophants will catch the Ovelette, so that's really good. Oh my god, no! A little bit of stutter stepping would have done it. Tier 2 on the way for SosijLord. Hasn't capped any gas in the natural. Obviously has his Eskagan in here, but he's not mining. He's inefficiently mining from his main base in both minerals and gas. You hate to see it. Second Stargate now for Haunt. That was scouted, or at least evidence of it was scouted by what SosijLord had. He saw the Exemplar. I wouldn't hate going for a Vornath here, even though you're in the middle of ascending to Tier 2, which means you could bypass the Vornath and go straight to the lake. But if you go Vornath here, just to get a couple of Nathricors out preemptively, you don't need Lyrilisks for this fight, but if you get a couple of Naths and you just dive onto the Exemplar, there's no idols here for splash damage. I tell a lie, there's 1 idol. In theory, Lanifex will disable that, but still. Pretty good option there. Tier 2 hatched for SosijLord. What is his follow-up? I'm definitely a lot more worried about Haunt's position now. He had a really strong lead, and then he just was worried about one lake is. As we saw, it really took a lot more to bring down his military force. And obviously, like, Golems joined the front line in the middle of that, so you can argue that there was something there, but one lake is was not going to do anything. You could have just kept SosijLord on one base the whole time. So a Hydra and a lake is are the units here. The Hydra scouts out to cause some chaos. The lake is burrows. Pretty good here, actually. There's no static detection for that area. I think the witness that was made was off somewhere else. Oh my god! So, obviously this is one of the Lake is hero units from earlier. But he still ends up clearing 4 workers with it, which is not bad at all. Almost 2k damage dealt, or maybe over that by the end. Not really so, I would say not really so impactful there. But now we've got the Matravel nest done. It's going to be Convol Tech up and running. We know SosijLord enjoyed them. He tried to make them versus Kasuga in our opening game. Thinking about his third base, but... Oh, I wonder why I have so few minerals. I wonder if Sausage has fixed this since then. I'll have to go and cast some of his games. If any exist. I think him and SG played a lot, so you might see a couple of those in the near future. Check in with him, see if he's earned his Class 3 status. Because right now these two do very much feel like they're more in the Class 4 bucket, but I'm willing to see improvement. I'm willing to see what ends up happening. So the Exemplar are only 2 in number. We don't have more than that. We got Gladius is starting to be made now. A Cantavis, but it feels a little late. Oh, there is a third. Oh, no, never mind. I tell a complete lie. Apparently there were 4, and I just missed the other 2. Now, is there a witness with this army? There is. So he will be able to see the lake is. This army still looks pretty deadly here, but SosijLord has a ton of Hydras, right? Sometimes you can win with a lot of Hydras. He's going to fall back. His lake is cleared. The Khaz'it is up here to help defend the natural. This is still looking like a pretty deadly force. Cantavis on the way. If Haunt doesn't pull the trigger on this attack after winning so decisively in there and not really losing too many units at all, I really don't know what to think. He's better not lose his Exemplar to those Hydras. One of them has gone down already. He needs those bad boys. They're doing his splash damage for him. Vilgoricor's Hydra's on the way here for Sausage. Feels like he needed those Convolisks yesterday as well, but none on the way. Now using the Exemplar a little bit as a raiding force. We got more and more Protoss units. Haunt looking very good for it. It's a game of who can kind of toss an advantage. You know, it's not really a hard throw. It's more a toss. I guess Haunt's lack of attack was kind of a throw, right? I'm trying to be charitable. Trying to be nice. I know it can be pretty intimidating. You see like a lurker equivalent unit, and you're like, oh, I got to get detection to see that. But no, you can just stand on it to reveal it in Cosmonarchy. We try to make it so that it's not essential to have detection in any given location. It will help you a lot, but it's not an essential equipment check. So every time the Vilgoricors get hit, they will reveal, they will release a mini Carapace Swarm, a mini Dark Swarm. Shields up to 200 damage. Pretty effective there. I don't know. Does feel like SosijLord is maybe getting a little antsy here. He wants to dive forward. The Vilgoricors can definitely shield a lot of his threats, but they're already down. Burst down by the army of Haunts. He's got his storm coming up. He still refuses to fight the lake is. I don't know what it is. Convolisks on the way. Some static defense to B over here in the third base, which has not been pressured at all by Haunt either. Another. I thought these were already mutated, but the fact that they're not means that Haunt could have just stepped on that base as well. The Hydra count is starting to rise again. Man, SosijLord needs so much more to actually break this position. In fact, Haunt could have broken this position already. Many times over, it feels. He's actually going to go for it, it looks like. He's going to pick that one lake is that had a lot of kills. The Hydra's doing their best. Remember that when they're around the Khaz'it, they will attack more. And now the Convolisks are going to be the big money makers here for SosijLord. If you can make it happen, the flanking Vilgoricor is going to soak up some attention and damage. Khaz'it's still left unassailed. Haunt's Micro needs to be a little bit better. His air units are not doing anything in this army right now. He's kind of losing his front line a little bit. He's got 1 Golem, 1 Amaranth left. Well, I say there's a second Amaranth in there. With the Convolisk on the Khaz'it as well, there's so many Broodlings being made, so many Brood spawn. Oh, Hallucination, not bad. Kind of does a similar thing to the Khaz'it in there. Yeah, there's no way the Zethicors were going to do much of anything. So the Mutant Spire was made, but he's not making anything that required it. SosijLord just going for, is he a Hydra right now? Is he a Hydra? I zero core Hydra. More units on the choke point here on the rally for Haunt. Preemptive Storm. It kind of works. Going to drag out a couple of those units. Vilgor Core will not be assailed. I guess it will technically be assailed, but it's not going to be killed. Not really mining anything from this third base this whole time. So effectively the players are essentially on even income. One Protathalor on the way for SosijLord. First Mutant Spire representative. The Ovaleth that dropped earlier is still kind of lurking around over here. Man, 5 Exemplar. And counting, right? We got 3 more on the way. That's going to be really hard for SosijLord to break down. He needs more, he definitely needs more Prothathalors. If you get a bunch of them around the Khaz'ritrith, you can definitely get a lot of value. Air or ground, they attack both. The random really low core spam. I don't know if that came from, I guess that must have come from like Zorius or Convolisks or something. Haunt is being really sheepish. He 1000% can break through this and has been able to this entire time. But now his Prothathalors, SosijLord's Prothathalors are actually doing a lot of damage. They almost picked the Cantavis. Now here comes the Air Force. I expect fates to change quite a bit here. The Bactylisks moving back, living up to their syllable, if not their exact name. And, you know, the Brood Spawn are kind of disruptive, but they don't do a lot of damage, so it doesn't really feel like Haunt should be falling back. Vilgorkor is finally being brought down. They themselves spawn a lot of Brood Spawn as well. I don't know. The Convolisks, the Prothathalors, the Bactylisks, it's all basically like ranged units here. No frontline left. SosijLord just trying to make things happen with a single Convolisk. The other two have all fallen. He only made 3 this whole time? I thought he must have made more by now. As Z. True. Cowardly Zerg. It's true, we can. So, I'm kind of putting the pieces together right now. I mean, Haunt is only now taking a third base. Still no mining happening over here for SosijLord. We are in this bizarre stalemate where SosijLord doesn't die, but Haunt doesn't kill him. And that's why. It sounds really silly to say, but that is why. And now the Prothathalor count is high enough. We've got a couple of Mutas on the field. Unlikely to really do too much. That Gladius is not going to live. See ya. He stormed his own witness to death. No, Haunt. That's not what you need to do. Oh my god, he's running his Cantavis into his storm. Thankfully, he runs out of energy. Now he's going to dive forward. I mean, he's got a lot of Exemplars killing everything here, but the Prothathalor count is still pretty high. And now he's around the Khaz'ritrith. The salvos are good. His ground army is going to fall, and it won't be long before the Exemplar go down next. Avaleth getting zoned away by another army. I cannot believe what I have witnessed today. So, with almost no units left, Haunt, on this side of the map anyway, Haunt is going to be routed. Will we see SosijLord make an economy? I'm not sure. It's still a pretty big army here, but it's not on the other side of the map. And now SosijLord, for the first time, what it feels like all game, does not have enemy units on his doorstep and might be able to do something. By golly, by God. Third base has 1 worker on it. Classic. I guess that's pretty relatable to SosijLord. He knows what that's like. Well, I do think that this is a rough one, right? SosijLord still hasn't found out that he's got an idle worker over there. Or maybe it's a new one. I think it's a new one because he was like here. Maybe he got turned into an Eskigant for his trouble. Do you guys think that Zerg workers would find it more or less or equal in terms of like biological solving? You know what I mean? Like salve the wounds or soothing tensions. Would they find it more or less disconcerting and stressful to be a structure compared to being a worker? Because I feel like if the worker becomes a structure, it is less likely to die, right? That being said, if the territory is given up, it's guaranteed to die, as opposed to the worker that can evacuate, burrow. Those are just some of my thoughts as I wait for SosijLord and Haunt to have their next engagement. We got some podcast content after all. This is much better saturation here from Haunt. Looks like he waypointed a couple of units out of his natural to do it, and his main is almost gone. But that's because it's depleted, I guess. But when your main is depleted, you still want at least 7 workers. You know, workers equivalent to the mineral field. Any follow-up workers there. The second worker on each patch is 25% efficient. Third worker is useless. So it's kind of like, by default, a non-depleted patch. First 2 workers are even in terms of their impact. The third worker is 25% efficient. So it's like when they become depleted, you lose any value of having a third worker. Whereas like a fourth worker is useless for these bases by default. And then it becomes the third worker that's useless. Anyway, just pointing that out. Worker count doesn't need to be enormous. But should still be there. Should still be present. Also, when you see, like, massively disproportionate, like, oh, yeah, this one's depleted, but this one has 600 or 800 minerals, kind of shows you there hasn't been great saturation throughout the game. Now, this time, the clash is more in the middle of the map. We have some Cantavis with the army. I'll try to keep tabs on whether or not it ends up casting a spell or not, but right now, it looks like it's just going to wander towards the front line, and that's a dangerous place for it to be. Bacillus, Protathalor, Convolus, they're all going to find some value here, and the Cantavis will almost certainly be going down as the Exemplar try to whittle down that back line. They do a little bit of value. Their count is absolutely indisputable. 10 Exemplar is no laughing matter. But so much of their value is being wasted on the front line when he needs to be picking those Convolusks. And he's got to watch out for those Protathalors. I almost wonder if, like, Mass Aurora wouldn't be good here. You just dive bomb onto the army. Do some splash damage when the Auroras die. But he only has the 2 Stargates, so he can't produce a massive number of them. His gateways and lattices are idle. He's only making Atreus Gladius right now. Definitely feels like Haunt needs to put his money spending into overdrive. He's got 4k gas and 1k minerals. 4th base being claimed by SosijLord at the 4 o'clock position. This could be what we've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. As SosijLord primes himself for an upset victory in this match. He was absolutely not favored to take the engagement after the early game. But unlike his failed 6 pool on Frosted Forest versus Kasuga, his rough start seems to have been reversed. Haunt definitely should have won this game, and on several occasions could have won this game, but I believe his window has firmly closed. Not that he was ever necessarily aware of it to begin with. Rough stuff, as SosijLord is going to claim 2nd place in this group. I can basically guarantee it. We got more units streaming on in, and Haunt still never activated his gateways or lattices. He never really built any additional units. He's got a Crucible coming, but he needs way more than that. And now the Protathalors descend upon his helpless Exemplars. Basically one-shotting an individual Exemplar every salvo. The Gladiuses are spawn camped. The last Exemplar falls. And that is a wrap. Haunt only has 2 combat units to his name. GG will have to be called. And SosijLord, he will take the 2nd game. I might have been a little overly critical. Obviously, I know these homies are new. And since then, I've definitely seen better games, better looking games out of SosijLord. So there is that. I think it's safe to say, though, that for now, I will bestow upon them the fabled Class 4. Though I do think that Haunt could... I think what I said on Near Impact still stands, right? I think Haunt could definitely... sort of shape up. He lacks a proper understanding, I think, of like how best to approach some of these tactical engagements, but he has good ideas about units, at least as Terran, and probably like it's impressive to see a new player field armies with spellcasters and actually use storms and stuff. Obviously, the storm usage could be better, but it's better than making the unit than not using it at all, which admittedly we did see later on. But for the most part, he was making use of his specialists, so I think that's pretty good. On the side of SosijLord, I definitely think that he gets himself into rough spots in the early game. I don't know if that's the case now. The thing is that his issues are a little bit easier to fix than I think Haunt's are, because he seems to have okay baseline mechanics. Haunt may need to work on some of those, like, I'm thinking about like worker production and stuff. SosijLord also has that, but as Zerg, you can just make one lump sum of workers in a couple of different times in the game and be fine. Whereas Protoss definitely needs to be steadily doing that. Same for Terran, and same for the forthcoming Ascozi. So I say all of that because I actually don't know what we're going to end up seeing out of SosijLord in the future. Nor do I know if Haunt is still going to be as active, because I don't think he's been as active as some of his other countrymen and his regional mates there in South America. But that all being said, I hope to see more from these homies. I am very delighted to have casted the March Invitational 2025 and have seen so many new faces. Acropolis number 3 will be banging, and I'll have more to say about that very soon. So GG's, and we'll see you on the next episode of Cosmonarchy's Daily Casts. Bye.